All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this global webinar where people from 25 countries and 50 plus Indian cities are getting into. Obviously, being a huge rush on our site, it's taking little time for everybody to log in. But the amount of rush will be high, so I'm sure you are all with a big bandwidth and in for a treat on IFRS and Ind AS. And there are speakers from many countries, and there are people who are toppers of the world. There are people who are eager to get into Ind AS, and the webinar is being conducted primarily to share the knowledge, and knowledge sharing through internet via webinar, and that too a free webinar, has become a great facility. Remember those days when even getting a book used to be a big challenge, and now on a click of button, here the knowledge is being shared globally across everywhere. What are we covering today? We are covering many areas, of course. So a broad agenda is like this. Thanks to President of ICAI, who had agreed to be the chief guest. So his speech will also be there for inaugurating this webinar. Post that, I am looking for business partner and CEO of CNBC TV 18 from Germany to inaugurate a book on IFRS, which myself and Mrs. Anjali Bhave, rather she has done the major work. A book on IFRS finally getting inaugurated, published. A good news for all of you is that those who have registered today, our publisher has promised 50% discount on this book. Also, those who have joined simultaneously, my close friend Bridge is picking up queries from the audience, so they are also welcome. Coming to the coverage, here there are different types of people. Obviously, a lot of CFOs, thanks to them for the interest shown. Then a lot of finance executives. Obviously, a huge number of chartered accountants from India. There are a lot of CA final students who are now appearing for May 16 CA final Group 1 financial reporting paper, which is going to cover first time Ind AS. Then very high level and profile cost accountants, cost and management accountants, CMAs. My dear mentor VS Date sir. Then President of CS Mamta Binani ji, who had all the time our well-wisher since Limca days. Then there are a lot of huge number of company secretaries who are keen to know about this corporate governance tool called IFRS and Ind AS. And to my pleasure, there are people from Comptroller and Auditor General of India and people from SEBI who have also logged in. My deep regards to them, because currently and even in past, the work C&AG and SEBI had been doing, which is exactly on transparent lines, which is being stated in IFRS and Ind AS. So I believe that the goal of this IFRS and Ind AS will lead to transparency and corporate governance. Welcome to past President Khanwalkar sir of ICAI. And there is a big group of people like Purna Raghavan has come from Sweden all the way. Tanvika from Switzerland. She is logging in. Richa Srivastav from USA. Then Sagar from Mahindra's. Kinjal from L&T. They are all world toppers and champions of IFRS. So that makes my job much easier. So I took an opportunity to speak first and leave rest for them. All right. And my special friend Bridge, without which this cannot happen. And super special friend Rupesh, I must mention him. He is the person because of Rupesh and Bridge and Amit and Dipesh are behind making this whole thing successful. There are super big shots in information technology. Mr. Ajay Kashikar, then Anil Doshi from Oman, and a famous lawyer Nisha Damani. They are the independent observers, and I thank you for making it successful very much. And over this, we are taking also an opportunity to say of 2 or 3 concrete things for the connected audience and everybody concerned. One, since India is implementing Ind AS, there are a lot of tips and tricks which CA in practice and CAs in employment and CAs in Big Fours are needing. So therefore, while one does Ind AS implementation in a bookish way, but as usual, like we say, principles and practices of management. Similarly, there are principles and practices of Ind AS implementation. And quite a lot of surprises one comes across when one reads the principles in the IFRS and Ind AS book and material. I mean, everybody knows that a huge material is available on the website, etc. And all the Big Fours and many other brilliant authors have written on it. So I would like to humbly submit that this is a small contribution we are trying to do here. So I really appreciate your presence here. And we are coming to the situation of one, that is IFRS tips and tricks on how to implement practically. So I'm sure today's tricks will help the people, those who are practicing IFRS and Ind AS, those who are implementing IFRS and Ind AS. They will be able to get the idea about how to implement it. The second part which we are covering, or I'm covering, is the Ind AS in brief, because the brief portion has come into the CA final syllabus. One, obviously, the introduction of Ind AS. Second, the carve-outs and carve-ins of Ind AS vis-a-vis IFRS. Third, the typical part, that is AS 30, 31 and 32 being replaced by IAS 32, that is Ind AS 32, and IFRS 7 and 9, that is Ind AS 107 and 109. Now, having said that, we are also getting into an area where AS and Ind AS is different, and which is what is partly getting covered into the Ind AS implementation process as well as into the CA final student syllabus. And any CA final students or practitioners desire to have an interaction on this, I am sure that all of you have my numbers, and I'm a big WhatsApp and Facebook fan. So you'll be able to grasp through that surely.